Welcome to LFC Transfer Hub News. All the latest Liverpool news, views and transfer rumors with updates on Alexander Isak, Giovanni Leone, Joe Gomez, Arne Slot. Alexander Isak. Newcastle striker wants to leave amid Liverpool interest. But what happens now? Newcastle and Alexander Isak have drawn a line in the sand over the striker's future. Isak publicly hit out at Newcastle on social media on Tuesday, with Liverpool keen to sign him. Watch Newcastle vs Liverpool live on Sky Sports on Monday from 6:30 p.m. Kickoff 8 p.m. The saga of the summer has taken another twist. Newcastle forward Alexander Isak put out an explosive statement on Tuesday night regarding his transfer standoff, saying his future with the Magpies cannot continue over broken promises made by the club. This is after Liverpool saw a £110 million bid rejected by Newcastle earlier this summer. Isak has not yet featured for Eddie Howe's side in matches since Newcastle returned to pre-season duty. He has been spotted at the club's training ground but has trained away from the first team, who have started the new Premier League season. So have Isak's latest comments put the Liverpool move back on? If a deal does not happen, is there any way back for Isak at Newcastle this season? And crucially, how big a few weeks is this in the context of the Premier League title? According to Sky Sports answers all the key questions below. As we all start deliberating, what is next? What are the broken promises Isak is talking about? There is a blurring of the lines about this. In his statement, Isak's section was somewhat ambiguous regarding the broken promises that have been reneged on. Newcastle have clarified in their own statement they have not communicated any promise to Isak about him leaving the club. However, it is our understanding that Isak's claims of broken promises relate to a contract renewal that was discussed with the club. He claims he was promised a new deal which he has wanted for the last 18 months, and that hasn't materialized. Isak feels he wants a contract with higher wages that reflects his status as one of the top Premier League strikers. How have Newcastle responded to the news? Newcastle have been angered by what Isak said on his social media last night, and they will dig their heels in. Newcastle are in a strong position, which is what they were saying in their club statement. Isak has 3 years left on that existing 6-year contract that he signed, and they remain very calm on the situation despite the outside noise. This is a situation where Newcastle have tried this summer to try and find a replacement, to allow Isak to then leave. They tried to sign Hugo Ekitike, who would have been a like-for-like replacement. They tried to sign Benjamin Sesko, who would have been a like-for-like replacement. And they've got right down to the nitty-gritty in both those deals and lost out, ironically, to Liverpool and then to Manchester United respectively. Neither of these players were being bought to play alongside Isak. They were bought to facilitate Isak's move away. And either of those deals would have allowed Isak to join Liverpool. But the failure to get Ekitike or Sesko has left Newcastle in a difficult situation. Newcastle feel that they have scoured the market, but there is now a private resignation that there is no one else left for them to pursue as a top target, with just under 2 weeks of the window left. Right now, Newcastle need Isak. And it feels very much like in this current climate, Isak will remain a Newcastle player beyond the end of the transfer window. What will be really interesting will be if and when Isak returns to the pitch wearing black and white stripes. Newcastle fans called him a greedy B***** from the stands during Saturday's 0-0 draw against Aston Villa, a match which showcased how much Newcastle need him. Could Isak get out of his Newcastle contract? From a legal standpoint, there is very little Alexander Isak can do to get out of his Newcastle contract. Reports have suggested the striker had a verbal agreement with the club to leave this summer. Newcastle denied that any such commitment was made to the player in their statement, responding to Isak's post on Instagram. Legally, such an arrangement, if it did exist, is irrelevant to a player's contract and in no way binding under Premier League rules. There are only 2 scenarios in which a player can annul their contract: when they haven't been paid or the club has breached the terms of the contract, and neither seem to be valid in Isak's case. Okay, so what would it take for Newcastle to sell Isak? Newcastle spoke last night about the conditions of a sale. There were 2 conditions. 1, Newcastle's valuation of the player. That valuation is £150 million. But they would probably do a deal for a little bit less than that, though Liverpool's £110 million offer that landed a few weeks ago is way short. So if Liverpool were to really seriously want Isak, they would have to come to the table with a higher bid. The second is that Newcastle need to find a replacement. They've been trying to sign Yoane Wissa from Brentford, but he's seen as the Callum Wilson replacement rather than the Isak replacement. So they're actually even struggling to bring in a replacement for Wilson, who left on a free contract and has joined West Ham. So Isak would be allowed to go if Newcastle were able to find a new gem striker signing from somewhere. They also bring in Wissa, with Newcastle expected to go into Brentford with a higher bid in the coming days. Liverpool come to the table with a significantly higher bid. Would a deal for Wissa be enough for an Isak sale? If Newcastle signed 2 strikers between now and the end of the window, and that's unlikely in the time left, which Newcastle alluded to in their statement, then Isak is likely to go. But if they get 1 striker, such as Wissa, who they have made a new bid for, and Liverpool make an eye-watering offer for Isak of around £130 million to £135 million, then Newcastle might have a big decision to make. There is an outside chance of Isak's departure happening in those circumstances, but it would leave Newcastle very light on striker reinforcements. It's going to be a very tense last couple of weeks. It feels like a line in the sand was drawn from both parties last night, and Newcastle's stance on the issue has hardened on the back of Isak's statements. There is a feeling that Isak has done himself no favors by making that statement. Does player power work? There is a stalemate in this saga. A player who does not want to play anymore and a club that does not want to sell him. Both are trying to achieve their aims at any cost. There have been plenty of incidents in the past where players have dug their heels in, refused to train in the hope of getting a move. See Dimitar Berbatov, who missed the start of Spurs season in 2008-09 to get a move to Manchester United. There was even one earlier this summer in the form of Viktor Gyökeres, who did not turn up to the start of Sporting CP's preseason training. Noises emerged of a broken agreement about his value between the player and the club, with Gyökeres winning that battle by getting a £63.5 million move to Arsenal. Has the club ever won the battle? There have been some high-profile instances where the club have stayed resilient and won in the face of player power. In 2021, Harry Kane expressed his desire to leave Tottenham and did not even show up for the first day of pre-season training, for which he was fined. Like Isak's situation, City had put in a £100 million bid for Kane, who also had 3 years left on his contract. And while Spurs looked for centre-forward replacements in the window, they stood firm and ended up keeping Kane after bids kept on being rejected. The England captain would end up leaving 2 years later for that same £100 million fee to Bayern Munich. There was another incident where the club won out in Carlos Tevez at Manchester City. In September 2011, the Argentine refused to come off the bench against Bayern Munich and manager Roberto Mancini insisted Tevez was finished at the club. After refusing to apologize and receiving multiple fines from City over breaches of contract, Tevez returned to Argentina without permission from the club. Months went by without a resolution, but City rejected approaches from AC Milan, Inter Milan and Paris Saint-Germain for Tevez in the January transfer window. 2 weeks after the transfer deadline, Tevez returned to City and then apologized for his conduct. He was back in Mancini's team by March and then helped them to a first Premier League title that season. Do Liverpool still want Isak after this? There is a growing feeling among the wider public that Isak's behavior is unacceptable, and this could even impact fan sentiment on Merseyside. However, speaking to Sky Sports News this week, Jamie Carragher felt Isak's tactics would be unlikely to lead to Liverpool's interest being affected. They won't, whether we think they should or shouldn't, he said, before making it clear he didn't agree with the approach. I don't think when you have a club paying your wages and supporters paying to watch you play you should refuse to play or train. I don't think that's acceptable. Do Liverpool need a striker? Liverpool have already been busy in the transfer market this summer, making significant changes in the forward positions. The acquisitions of Hugo Ekitike and Florian Wirtz have encouraged supporters, but there have also been some high-profile departures. Darwin Núñez and Luis Diaz have been sold, while, of course, Diogo Jota tragically passed away at the start of July. In a recent interview with Sky Sports, Arne Slot argued that Liverpool were still short up front. We need to have one more attacker, he said. Isak's firepower would be an asset for any team, and Liverpool believe that he could be a difference maker. They won the Premier League title by 10 points, having scored 17 more goals than second-placed Arsenal, but Slot's view is that the margins were small. Although we have created the most chances in the league, scored the most goals in the league, we have mostly won games by 1 goal difference. In fact, 9 of Liverpool's 25 Premier League victories last season came by just 1 goal. Where does this leave Ekatike? Liverpool have already committed £79 million to bringing in Ekatike from Eintracht Frankfurt, and the France international forward has made a promising start to life at Anfield with goals in his first 2 games for the club. Many would argue that he warrants a run. Slot himself has acknowledged that Ekatike's best position is up front, but he also pointed out that there are other ways that the flexible forward can fit in. I see Hugo mainly as a number 9 who could also play from the left or with another number 9, told Sky Sports. Another news is Slot hints at Endo or Szoboszlai playing right back. Liverpool boss Arne Slot suggested midfielders Wataru Endo or Dominik Szoboszlai could step into a right-back role at Newcastle on Monday night. With Jeremy Frimpong revealed to be out until after the September international break with a hamstring issue and Connor Bradley only returning to first-team training on Thursday, Liverpool have been hit with 2 injuries in that position. Joe Gomez, who could play there, is currently returning from a long-term injury himself, although did come on against Bournemouth on Friday night, while Curtis Jones has played the role before, while new centre-back signing Giovanni Leone has also trained with the first team. But Slot named Endo and Szoboszlai as options. Jeremy has a very positive injury record. Connor has been out once or twice last season, said Slot. These things happen in a season. We have only at the moment 2 injuries. Unfortunately, it's 2 for the same position. The good thing is some others can play in that position as well. Wataru Endo played in that position for a few minutes. Dominik Szoboszlai already played in that position. There are other options we can explore. Joe Gomez is definitely one of them, but for him to already play 20 minutes, that was already quite a lot. I wouldn't say he had a setback, but he wasn't able to train 3 days in a row completely with the team. It's completely normal if you've been out for so long and all of a sudden the manager needs you for 20 minutes. He's training with the team, so let's see where he is on Monday, if he can be involved in the team or if he can even start. But there are other options as well. You cannot prepare for 2 injuries in one position. It would be stupid for us to have 3 fullbacks or 5 left-backs, although we have 3 left-backs. Thanks for watching. Like and comment and subscribe.